Welcome to the shop. Steve here at SKS Props, and in today's video we're going to be putting together one of the most requested and iconic characters from my Retro Monster Mask series, Dracula. Now this guy was really fun to put together, and even though he's extremely stylized, he goes right along with all the other characters already in the series. He is of course made all out of my HD foam, which you can find over at Blick Art Materials. Now this is the kind of build, it's super simple, and Halloween is right around the corner, but you could throw this together in an afternoon. I want to show you the steps that it takes to put him together, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you can do is head on over to sksprops.com and download these free templates to build right along with me. Dracula's face template was transferred onto some 6mm HD foam with a pencil, and most of the cuts were done with a utility knife. However, because of their size, the eyes were cut out with a scalpel blade. During this time, I went ahead and cut out the other pieces that I needed out of 6mm foam, which included the nose, the jaw, and the ears. You can set all these pieces to the side until we need them later on. Grabbing a piece of 2mm HD foam, I started to transfer the templates that needed that size. I started off with his hair because it's the largest piece, and then placed all the other templates inside, because even taking small steps like placing where your templates are going to go cuts down on your material waste. The combination of a scalpel blade and shears are used to cut out all of these pieces, and once complete, you can also set these aside. Now it's time to clean up all of my 6mm pieces, and to start off, I use a small, medium grit sanding drum attached to my Dremel rotary tool. Then I switch over to an almost smooth sanding drum. This will help me clean up the cuts and round everything over. A very light heat treatment with my heat gun is the last step before I start gluing. Contact cement is applied to the darts at the top of the mask, and a small scrap piece of foam is used to wipe away any excess. After leaving the contact cement a few minutes to dry, the foam can then firmly be pressed together. To attach the lower jaw, I lightly mark onto the foam exactly where the adhesive needs to go. Bob Smith super glue is generously applied, and the foam is pressed together until cured. This same process of marking the foam and gluing it into place is done to the opposite side. I grab my 2mm facial details because I'm going to start by attaching the lower and upper lips. I try to match the curves on the face as best I can. If it doesn't line up just right, you could always use your rotary tool to refine it. The eye bag is lightly marked, and then super glue is applied and pressed into place. You want to line it up approximately where the tear duct would start, and then have it follow the curve. Next up, the eyelids are lightly marked and glued on. Now you could definitely change the expression of your vampire by altering these. I grab his teeth and place them in the mouth, and then mark on the back of the mask exactly where the top of the template stops. This gives me a great reference of where the glue needs to go and how much of the top teeth are going to show. The same process is also done to the bottom teeth. I'm just trying to match them up to the middle as much as I can. I lightly trace around the eyebrows. Notice how they slightly overlap the eyelids. This is also another accessory that you could customize to change the expression of your vampire. Now that most of the facial details are in place, I just center up the nose and glue it right in the middle. The hair will line up with the top of the head, and this piece will cover up all of our seams. I would recommend to start at the top in the middle and then work your way down to the point. That way you could easily stretch or manipulate the foam as you need. As you're moving across, just have it follow the top of the mask. One reference point is that when you get to the bottom of the sideburns, the point lines up with the cheekbone. This piece is traced around just to make sure it goes exactly where it needs to. Glue is added, and the foam is pressed into place. Now you can mirror this process on the opposite side and see how the point over there also lines up just right. Now for the ears, I roughly mark where they need to go, but I don't want them sticking out too much. And depending on where your lower jaw attaches to the mask, you may need to trim these some so they attach just right. So I'm done with the fabrication side of my Dracula mask, and I'm really happy with how this one has turned out. Stylistically, he looks great and goes right along with the rest of the series. Now it's time to paint him up, and just like my other monster masks, I'm going to be using the FX line from Plaid to prime and paint him, so let's go ahead and jump into the painting process. FX Clear Primer is applied to the surface of the mask with a 1-inch flat brush. This will prime the surface and get it ready for paint. FX brand Aquarius and Blizzard are going to be mixed together for my vampire skin tone. This throwback color scheme is applied with a smaller filbert brush. Because adding Blizzard to it makes it a little bit thinner, a second coating is applied and a hairdryer is used to speed up the process. FX brand Beta Blue is mixed into the color I created. This is going to be used for Dracula's eye bags. Just like the skin tone, this paint is applied in 2 layers and a small detail brush is used to paint the side of the 2mm foam. FX brand Carbon is the color I'm going to use for the eyebrows and the hair. Now this color is considerably more opaque than the others, so I'm being very careful in making sure not to get it onto my flesh tones. This paint is applied directly out of the bottle with a filbert brush, and a second coat really isn't needed. I want to add some crease lines from Dracula's nose to the corners of his mouth, and I start by lightly drawing these on with a pencil. Once I have the placement figured out, I use a liner brush and the same color that I'd use for his eye bags. Any cleanup is done with the skin tone color I still have on my palette. Now this took a while to do and was a little nerve-wracking, but I took a detail brush and painted the sides of all of his hair and eyebrows. Once again, keeping with that vintage look, I'm going to be using the FX color Bloodline to paint his lips. Like the Carbon, I'm making sure not to get it onto his skin. I wanted to add a little cartoon blood drop down at the bottom, and this was done freehand with a liner brush. FX brand Blizzard was used to paint Dracula's upper and lower teeth. And again, because this is a thinner paint, 2 coats were needed for full coverage. Just like my other monster mask, some black chiffon cloth is going to be hot glued over the eyes and the mouth. For those that didn't see the other videos, I always use a low temp hot glue gun, that way I can press the fabric with my hands. This fabric is glued around the eyes and the mouth, and once cooled, the additional material can be removed with some scissors. More hot glue is added around the perimeter of these pieces just to make sure they don't go anywhere, and our mask is starting to come together. As with my other masks, I've used tri-glides to make them fully adjustable and straight elastic if you don't need that. In this case, I'll just be using some 1-inch elastic, and this is cut to a length of 12 inches. Hot glue is applied slightly above the eyes to tack this piece down, and then additional hot glue is added to keep it in place. A block of upholstery foam is added to the forehead for comfort. Additional strips of 2mm foam are superglued over the elastic. This double adhesive method will make sure that this elastic will not rip away. So you guys can see the basic steps that it takes to put together your own retro-style Dracula mask. And this guy goes great with all the other ones that I already have available on my channel. And remember, the templates for all these are absolutely free. You can download them over at sksprops.com, and I'll have a link for those over in the description section. And remember, if you're building any of my builds or using HD foam, be sure to tag me at sksprops on Twitter and Instagram because I want to see your creation. Until next time, build your best with the best. HD foam.